Haven't we been here before? Hey folks, we're back with another video, and today we're going to be working on a Rockshox Pike RCT3 B1 chassis fork. Now, this B1 chassis has a Charger 2.1 in it instead of the original 2.0 and a C1 air spring instead of the original air spring. We're going to be performing a full service on this fork, including the 50-hour lower service, the air spring, and a full damper service. So I'd already posted a full service video on this chassis version of Pike fork, but that was back then when I was first making bike service videos. And the video and audio quality back then was, well, let's just leave it at crap. So this video will be a full refresh video for this fork, which should make it clear and brighter for people to follow in order to successfully service it. If you own this fork, you will only benefit from servicing it. It's easy to do, quick once you get used to it, and the payoffs are super high, especially the 50-hour service. I find Pikes run super smooth when freshly serviced. So, with all that being said, let's get into the tools and the parts needed for the job. As for tools, I'm going to break it out in 3 sections. The 50-hour lowers, the air spring, and then the damper tools, okay? In all 3 sections, the most important tool you are going to need right here, safety glasses. Wear your safety glasses. So we're going to go over the tools in order of usage, okay? So for the 50-hour, we're going to start off with either a pen, pencil, pad with a shock pump in order to write down all our existing settings. Then once that's done, we're going to need a 2.5 millimeter Allen to take out the rebound knob at the bottom of the fork. Then we're going to need a 5 millimeter Allen to take out the bolts at the bottom of the fork, and a hammer to tap and separate the bolts from the shaft on the inside. At that point, we're going to pull the bottom from the upper. You're going to need some kind of oil pan so the oil could fall into, okay? So then we're going to need a pick to take out the foam ring from inside the lower. I'm going to remove the wipers and change them in this case. So I'm going to need I use this Ice Tools tire lever. It works great. It's got a thick rubber plastic coating on it, so it helps with preventing from chipping the actual boot itself, okay? Then we're going to clean the boot inside. I use a dowel with towels and a rubber band and sort of create like a mop in order to clean them. Then what we're going to do is take our foam rings and we're going to soak them in oil. You can get 3 of these for $1 at a dollar store. It's just a little plastic container. Anything that's small that will hold the O-rings or the foam rings will, so they can saturate in oil, will work. Then when we're done with the 50-hour, we're going to be knocking in the new wipers. You're going to need a wiper installation tool of some sort, okay, to play it safe, because I mean, you can take your chance, use something else, but it's worth getting one of these tools to say the least. We're going to need a syringe to fill up the lowers with oil. You need at least 10 milliliters of oil for each side of the shock, in this version at least. Alcohol, and again, paper towels for the job to clean everything up, and that is everything for the 50-hour service. Now we're going to go on to the air spring side. The air spring is part of the 200-hour service, so no matter what, to get to the air spring, you have to have already done the 50-hour portion, okay? So from there, we're going to need a cassette tool in order to remove the cap on the top of the air spring side. Then we're going to go underneath. We're going to need a retaining clip plier in order to take out a retaining clip that's holding the air spring in. Now, to pull the air spring out to make life easier, technically this is optional, just makes your life easier. It's an M8 bolt with fender washers and nut and a lock washer in order to help you pop the air spring out in case there's a lot of negative pressure in there, okay? So at that point, we pulled the air spring out. We're going to take the air spring, we're going to put it on a vise. You don't need the vise for just the air spring, but you're going to need it for the damper, and since we're doing a 200-hour, might as well take advantage of it. Vise with flat surface jaws, flat soft jaws. Then we're going to need an 8 millimeter Allen, and or a 12 millimeter wrench or a 12 millimeter socket, whichever one you have, both will work, okay, in order to separate the air spring. Then we're going to go in there, we're going to change out seals. You're going to need a pick in order to be able to change out seals. Then when we're done changing seals, we're going to put it back together. We are going to need Loctite Red and a torque wrench to put it all together to make sure it's all torqued down. You also need a torque wrench for the 50-hour service. I probably should have mentioned that. And then to finalize the air side, we're going to need a syringe so we could put in about 3 milliliters of oil on top and 1 on the bottom on the air side. And once again, alcohol and paper towels. That's it for the air side. For the air spring, let's go into the damper. As for the damper, first we need to take off the controls. We're going to need a 2mm Allen for that. Then we need to remove the damper itself. We're going to need a cassette tool to remove the damper from the tube. And then what we're going to do is crack open the bleed port and drain. We're going to need some kind of container to drain the oil. Just to start the drain, T10 Torx Bic to open up the bleed port, and then a 23mm wrench or Nipex or any kind of channel lock, even really if you want, whatever you guys are comfortable with, to separate the seal head from the upper part of the damper. But you will need a 23mm crow's foot in order to torque it back down with a torque wrench. So whenever you don't have a wrench of a certain size or they're expensive or hard to get, always opt for getting a crow's foot, because these could be used to unscrew something and screw something back down, right? Or tie something back down, torque it back down, I should say. So then we're going to empty out the rest of the oil in our pan. We're going to clean everything up. We're going to change the seal head. We're going to put it all together. We're going to use our crow's foot to torque it back down. And then we're going to bleed. We're going to need a Rockshox syringe kit. So this is basically the same head that you would use on any SRAM brake, basically, right? So just don't mix dot fluid with any type of other oil. Don't mix dot fluid with anything. So if you can't clean yours out good enough, just go buy one of these things. They're actually pretty cheap. You could get them really cheap, guys. All right. Alcohol, paper towel, and that's all we need for the damper side. Next, let's go over the seal kit and the oils needed for the job. As for seal kits, so there's many different types of seal kits. It's all dependent on which damper and which air spring you have in the fork, right? So in my case, again, it's a B1 chassis, but I had upgraded to the 2.1 damper and the C1 air spring. I would need part number 00.4318.025.120, which includes, and I don't know why they include the air spring. They could probably sell this kit for like 20 bucks less without that thing in there. Anyway, but it includes a new air spring and everything needed for the Charger 2.1 damper, okay? Now here's where it gets a little bit odd anymore with Rockshox when it comes to oil. So I'll start on the damper side. You had Rockshox oil and you had Maxima Plush oils, okay? You need 3-weight, either case. Both, you could use both. The Rockshox one, the one thing to take into consideration is this used to be a very bright red. Not anymore. A couple of years back, let's say 3 years ago, I think it was, they changed the formula, which makes it sort of darker. So if you end up buying a Rockshox 3-weight fluid from Amazon or somewhere and it shows up dark and you were expecting it to be bright red, because for a long time it was bright red, that's normal, okay? So don't freak out. That's absolutely normal. They changed the formula, changed the color, and that's all it comes down to. In my case, this is old. I just wanted to show that to you. In my case, I'm going to be using Maxima Plush 3-weight since I have a whole bottle over here, all right? Now, for the 50-hour service, for years they were using 0W30. Now, recently, Rockshox moved over to Maxima Plush heavy and light. Technically, on the newer versions of this fork, they want you to use the heavy and light. I think it's heavy on the damper side and light on the air spring side, or vice versa. I don't remember. I got to look it up. But I'm going to use 0.30 in this case because, well, this bottle's nearly empty. I want to get rid of it basically, right? So, and this is a perfect opportunity to do that. So that's what I'm going to go with. And in either case, we could use SRAM butter. Technically, if you're using Maxima fluids, my understanding is that Rockshox wants you to use SRAM butter. If you're using older Rockshox fluids, then you could use dynamic grease, but I'm a bigger fan of SRAM butter over dynamic grease. I'll take it any day, to be honest. All right. That's pretty much it for that. Next, let's open up a fork. Before we work on a fork, we want to make sure it's absolutely clean. Clean the entire outside and make sure to clean inside the steer tube and back of the crown over here, on the inside where the wipers are, on the inside of the crown, and underneath where the bolts are, right? Because mud and dirt could get caked on in there, and the last thing we want to do is have some of that mud fall into the fork when we're closing it up later on, okay? So make sure it's all clean. So first we're going to take our settings and write them down. I'm going to start off with the rebound since I'm down here, okay? So we're going to take our rebound knob, we're going to turn it towards the rabbit. counterclockwise and count the clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11. Rebound is 11. Then we're going to count our low speed compression. We're going to make sure our high speed is on open, fully clockwise, so that's good. Now we're going to take the low speed compression in the middle, and we're going to turn it clockwise again and count the clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8. Now we're going to take off the cap for the air. We're going to take our shock pump, take the cap, put it on the side. We're going to take our shock pump, and 84.5, but we lose at least 5 in here, which makes sense to me. So that's going to be close to 90 in my opinion. So 90 PSI. Now use your shock pump and deflate the air spring side. Take out all the air, but take it out real slow, okay? You don't want to do it quick. You want both sides of the chamber to come out, or to empty out at least. Make sure all the air is out. Before you let go, you never want to open up a lower part of a shock while it has air inside. That thing will absolutely pop on you. Okay, so that part's done. Now we're going to verify that the air is out. To verify that the air is out, we're going to take like anything that will depress that'll fit inside the valve to push it down, right? Paper towel, just to protect yourself in case any fumes come out, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to press down on the valve, and then we're going to push down the shock all the way. When it gets to the bottom, I go. There we go. Let's do it once more to be absolutely sure. And that's it. Now we can open it. Our first step to open it up, remove the rebound knob. 2mm Allen. Be gentle with it. Don't try and take out the screw. Just loosen it a little bit, enough where you can pull out the knob. Don't remove the screw. Take the knob, put it on the side. Next, we remove our 2 bolts. 5mm Allen. Loosen them. Both of them. All right, just loosen them for now. Now what we're going to do, let's do 4 full turns. 1, 2, well, let's do 3. 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now we're going to take a mallet, we're going to tap them to separate the shaft from the actual boot itself. There you go, you heard the air, that definitely separated. And I'm pretty sure that just separated, actually, maybe a little bit more. Yep, that should have separated. Now we're going to take off the screws, start with the bolts, start with the rebound. Air spring. Take these, put them on the side. We'll work on them later. Now we're going to remove the bottom from the top. To remove the bottom from the top, oh, oil already came out. You're going to need an oil pan, right? So just take it and separate it. Now, separate it inside. And let the oil drip out. Okay, so we're going to let it sit in there for a little bit. Let that oil come out. And we'll start working on it. First, what we're going to do, let's clean this part first, or at least the upper half first, because we're going to work on this later. First, we're going to work on the boots. Now, when you put this on the side, there's a little tip, because there's oil in here, and if you leave it on a flat surface, it will come out and make a mess while we're, working on the lowers. Take paper towel, just stuff it in there and let it soak up any oil as opposed to it falling onto your wherever you're going to put this thing, right? So There you go. Now you can lean it, you can lay it down, you can do whatever you want, put it on the side. So this is our boot. So first, we are going to remove, it's clean. I do my 50 hours really regular. Our foam rings. Now I got my tire lever. Again, you could use wrench, basically something that could go underneath, but just make sure you don't chip away at this thing, right? So this is going to be a little bit tricky for me because I'm on a table. Sometimes it's hard when it's not on the ground. Come on. There we go. That's one. And the spring fell inside. Spring is still inside. There we go. Spring just fell out. And two. Done. Next up, we clean the insides. To clean the insides, I have a bit of a ritual, really. I grab alcohol. Ooh, hopefully I have enough. I have another bottle somewhere, right? And the first thing I do is I spray it down real well. Make sure that the outside over here is really clean, right? You don't have any dust particles. You don't have any like dirt, sand, anything. So make sure it's all clean. Put a whole bunch of oil inside, or alcohol inside to break up the oil. Make sure you're plugging the hole at the bottom. Forgot to mention that. Start shaking. Goal over here is to break up the oil. Start shaking. Shake, 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 shake. All right. Do it again. Start shaking. And drain it at the bottom. Okay, then we're going to take our dowel. We're going to take a paper towel. We're going to loosely wrap it, leaving about 1.5 inches on top. Could you see that? Yes. So you can see it better. Right? Loosely wrap it. Don't tightly wrap it. Just loosely wrap it. Then we're going to grab a rubber band and make it tight around the middle. Tear the edges to create like a mop. Then we're going to put it in there. Start counterclockwise. Let the bottom soak, okay? Let that excess material soak up whatever's at the bottom. Spin it around. That's why I put the rubber band on it, so I can move it up and down without the towel coming off, right? And that's why I use a square as opposed to a round dowel. Just holds on to the square part, the angle part, or the 90-degree angles bed of the towel, as opposed to just spinning, having the dowel spinning inside the towels, and the towel's doing nothing. So, okay, take this guy out. That's once. I'm going to do it one more time in this case. If it's super dirty, you might have to do it 3 times. Come on, look at this, for the love of God. Okay, so again, towel, leave about 1.5 inches. Loosely wrap it. There you go. Rubber band. Alcohol. Put it in there, put it to the bottom, make sure it hits the bottom, let it soak up at the bottom. Pull it out. And you should be, oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to tear it. That's rare. Definitely gives it more mopping action that way. All right. And that's pretty much it. Yep. Now, Camera overheated on me just when I was done. So what I was saying is I'm going to do the other side. You don't need to see it on video. You do it as well. Finish it up both sides equally. And we will be back to continue on to the next step. Our boot is clean. So next what we want to do is inspect the bushings. There's one here and there's another one right about there, right? You want to make sure there's no scuffs, marks on it. It's not worn out. You want to make sure it's nice and, well, clear or clean at least, right? And I'm looking at these and there is not an issue. It's best to put it against light on this side when you're looking down this side, right? So you get a nice reflection so you can see on them, okay? So, but as far as what I could see, these are looking great. Nothing to worry about here. So we are ready to go on to the next step, which is the air spring service. Now on to the air spring. First, we need to take off the cap. For that, cassette tool. I'm gonna put it on there. This is gonna be a little bit hard. It's on there with like either 24 or 28 Newton meters. So it's gonna need a good stiff turn, but if you did it according to recommended torque specs, shouldn't be all that bad. That's the towel. See what I mean by oil comes out? Look how much oil came out, and it's still coming out. So if you had it laying down on the floor or somewhere or upright, it would drain wherever you leave it. So all right, take this guy off, do the rest by hand. There we go. Air spring with 2 tokens in it. We'll leave that on the side for now. It stinks like fish in there. Holy cow. Clean oil here, put that on the side. Next, what we're going to do, we're going to take off our C-clip. For that, you have 2 options. You could put this all the way up. If it stays all the way up, in my case it's not, you could hold it all the way up. The only thing is, it's more of a pain in the butt than I think it's worth. Just be very careful. Grab the C-clip, pull it out, try not to touch your shaft, and done. If you're careful enough, you shouldn't have to worry about it. Take this, put it on the side. Okay, now I'm going to use my tool, thread it in, again an M8 bolt. And this is just going to make easier, just pulling this guy out. There we go. Our air spring is out. Next, let's clean up the tube. The tube is easy enough to clean. Take some alcohol, spray them down there. Bunch up a paper towel. Put them in. A nice tight ball. Grab a dowel and force him through. And then repeat one last time. Grab a towel. And force him through. Grab him, clean the threads. Make sure the whole top over here is perfectly clean. Make sure the seat for the seat clip or the retaining clip is clean. Look at it. Make sure there's no scratches. That looks perfect. Awesome. Now let's work on the air spring. We have the air spring in hand. I still have my tool just to hold on to it while we clean it up. Okay. Clean off all the old grease first so you don't make a mess all over yourself more than anything. To separate the air spring, you technically don't need a vise. What you need is an 8mm Allen and either a 12mm wrench, crow's foot preferred, or a socket so you can torque it down after, right? So the 8mm Allen goes on top over here. And then we're going to take our wrench, our socket, and basically take him, and there's Loctite red in there. Done. It's not in super tight. Loosened him. The rest we should be able to do by hand. Okay, so we're going to take this guy, put him right here on the side. We're going to take off our C1 head, put it right there on the side. Then we take that guy off. Before I get into the air spring seal kit, one thing I completely forgot to mention in the 50-hour service, let's saturate the foam rings. Totally forgot about that. Not that it needs a lot of time. but why not have it just sit there? Take your foam rings, put them, is this thing clean in there? I'm not sure it's clean in there. I'm pretty sure. Oh yeah, he's clean. Probably on the outside, all that dirt. So put the foam rings inside. I'm going to use 0.30. You could use light. I believe it's light on the right side, on the air side. So put some extra because I'm going to need it for later anyway. Pat these guys down. Cover them so we don't spill them over by mistake. Put them on the side. The rest we will use later. Now we could get into the air spring seal kit. So I'm going to open up the seal kit. And in the seal kit, they give us quad ring. For some reason, they give us one of these and a whole new piston one. All we need is the seal, the O-ring, right? And this O-ring is for the top cap. I'm going to leave it on the side. These are old. This is new. So we have a quad ring on seal kit. We're going to take, on the air spring itself, on the piston. We're going to take it out, use a blunt tool. Leave it there. Now, what we're going to do, grab some alcohol. Clean the seat. Clean the shaft. Make sure the threads are clean on the shaft. Make sure there's no Loctite red. If there is, use some kind of brush to brush it off or a pick to pick it off, okay? So that is clean. Now we will assemble quickly. So we're going to take grease, we're going to put it inside our seat. All right, we're going to grab our quad ring, our new one, grease them up really good. We're going to put them on. When we put them on, be absolutely sure you don't twist them. See, right now he's a little bit twisted. Right there. See that? Deceiving. So always make sure you look at him before you think you're done with them. There we go. Now he's perfect. Then we're going to take our bumper. We'll put this guy up here. Now, I'm going to grab some grease. Put them inside. Put some on the shaft. Slide this guy in. All right, now we have to clean all the grease out from the inside over here. Quick. And then we are ready to close it back up. So before we close them up, we want to make sure that these threads are completely free of grease. Grab a little bit of alcohol, put it on a towel, rub it in there, and then take some dry part of the paper towel and wipe it off. All right, now let's prep our torque wrench with a 12mm socket and then use, well, anything that's an 8mm Allen. I'm going to use my ratchet to help me out. So we're going to take Loctite red. We're going to put it on the top, just a little bit on the top threads. Not too much. A little bit more. All right, let it sink into the threads. Blow on it. Stuff's pretty thick. So it evenly goes in the thread so it doesn't bunch up on you. All right, that's good enough. So we're going to take the flat part, not the thin part, the flat part. We're going to put it in, screw it in. Torque wrench at 3.3 Newton meters. Should have mentioned that ahead of time so you could prep. So again, 3.3. Now let's hold it on this side with the okay, and 3.32. Not much torque on here, or not much torque needed, not much Newton meters needed. It's the Loctite that's going to hold it in place. Okay, so our air spring is done. Next, let's just quickly clean up our air cap and change the seal on this to prep it. Grab the old O-ring, pop it out. That's the old one. Clean the seat. If you want to throw a little bit of alcohol in there, clean the seat, clean it real good. Make sure you clean the underneath over here with your fingernail. Get everything you can. Okay, then grab a little bit of grease, put on our O-ring on the bottom, and put them in, and our cap is done. Time to put the air spring back into the fork. To put the air spring back in, we're going to need our retaining clip plier, get a syringe, preferably something that goes up to at least 4 milliliters, and I'll explain why. We're going to need grease, and we're going to need our air spring. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of grease and coat the inside. Go as deep as you can with your finger. Nothing fancy here. See what I mean? Oil's still coming out of that side. So we got that done, right? So next, grab your foam ring container or your container with the foam rings that's soaking, and we're going to fill it up with 4 milliliters of oil. All right, just about there. We'll leave that on the side. Close this guy back up. Well, tuck these guys back in there. Close this guy back up. Put them on the side so we don't spill them. Try your hands. Now, we're going to take grease. We're going to put it all outside our seal head. Cover this guy over here real well. Okay. And sort of try and make like a bowl on the edges, just like that. And there's a reason for this. There we go. So we sort of created like a bowl, right? The reason we did that is we are going to take 1 milliliter of the oil, and we are going to put it on top of the seal head. Come on. Don't give me a hard time. All right. So just like that. Now press the whole thing up. Press this all together, and we are going to roll it in. Press it in and push it in. Make sure it's pressed in. Okay, make sure it's all together. It's going to be a little bit stiff. Getting in there. Greasy hands don't help. Come on. Why is it not going in? That should have been in already. So make sure this shaft's all the way out, right? Make sure the piston is, this piston here is touching the other piston, or the main piston, right? And then, again, push it in. There we go. Jeez, man, it was hard. That was hard. So, again, we wanted to make sure this shaft was always out and this piston was touching the other piston the whole way in. Now we're going to sink it enough where we can put our C-clip in. So we're going to grab our C-clip, the retaining, or at least a retaining clip, I should say. Put it in. Be careful with the edges. Sink it in. Great. That's not what you want to do. Yeah. Sink it in one side just like that. And spin them around. There we go. He is in his seat. Our air spring is in. We have absolutely no negative pressure, no suck up. It comes right back down immediately, so we are good. To finish it up, we have our torque wrench, 28 Newton meters. We have our cap, and we have the remaining 3 milliliters of oil. We're going to take that oil and put it in there. We're going to take our cap, always by hand. Always by hand, especially these threads. These are fine threads. Do not want to force them. Probably shouldn't have put this guy on here right away. Okay. And we're going to torque him down. Oh, I kept on going. Should have just used the ratchet actually. Okay, should be nearly there. And there we go. So now I'm going to take him. $28.1. Clean him down. And we are good to go. No suck up at all. We are doing great. Our air spring is done. Time for the damper. As for the damper, first we need to start off by removing the controls. So verify that everything's in the fully open counterclockwise position, high speed and low speed. Then 2mm Allen. Take out that little bolt in the middle and do not lose it. Make sure it doesn't bounce into something small. Pull out the whole mechanism one shot. Be safe. Take the screw, put it back into the hole just so it's all together one mechanism. You never know. All right, and then we're going to grab our cassette tool. This might be a little bit hard. For me, on this table, it's a little bit hard, but it's going to take some force. There we go. And I got it. Okay. There we go. It's getting easier. And now we're able to remove the damper. And there's our Charger 2.1 damper. Grab a towel, clean it up. Before we open up the damper, let's finish off this upper tube. Spray alcohol in it, just like the other one. Grab a paper towel, punch it in there to a nice tight ball. Grab a dowel. Go to the other side. Clean everything on the edges, on the rim, and the threads. Look inside. This one doesn't really matter if it's scratched on the inside. There's nothing touching the walls on this, but it is totally clean. That's all we care for right now. So now we open up the damper. So unlike the air spring with the damper, you really do need a vise with a flat soft jaw. Okay, it's going to make your life much, much, much easier. You could try and do this without it. I wouldn't. It'll be too difficult. Okay, so first we need to remove the oil. Two ways to do it. You could put the damper in the flat jaws right now, take off the seal head, pull out the whole damper shaft and rebound shaft and empty out the oil. But sometimes if you mess up, that oil could spill somewhere. So what I do is I take out the bleed screw first. Okay, oil will come out. Make sure you got your container handy. And then take some of the oil and bring it out first. All right. Just like that. Done. Now, we could take the damper. It has two flat sides, and we want to put these flat sides, if you can see that well, hopefully, right, on the flat spot of the flat jaws. Okay, that's it. Now, we grab our 23mm, find the flat spots, right, they're all around it, and Careful over here. Oil's going to want to drip out. There we go. Put that guy in there. Now we can remove him. And we could empty out the rest of our oil. Like I said, you could just do that and empty it out, but it's happened to me a couple of times in the past, years ago. But still, it's just, you know, why just avoid it if you can. Potential spilling all this stuff everywhere. So even though this oil got changed last year, this fork had a lot of hours on it. Clean 200 hours. So squeeze the bladder. Try and get all the oil out. Now, I change my oil every year. So you have the option to try and clean everything inside, putting alcohol inside, filling it up, and, you know, trying to clean the inside with alcohol, basically. I'm not a big fan of that. Since I change my oils often and they don't come out looking all that bad, I don't worry about it. I did a fork not that long ago that oil was in there for a long time, and I actually did do that whole alcohol flush. So if your oil looks good, you don't need to do it. My fear is always that I'm not going to be able to, if the alcohol gets past the shims, I'm not going to be able to get it all out, and then it'll mix with oil if I put oil in there, right? So I figured this is just safest bet. Just keep up with your service. You won't have to worry about it. Put it that way. All right, I'm going to let this drain, and we will be back. Before I forget, please dispose of the oil appropriately. Don't put it down a toilet. Don't put it down a sink. Don't put it outside. Don't put it in the garbage. Put it in a bottle that's clearly marked dangerous so kids don't drink it, and give it to your local bike shop. Give it to an auto shop. Give it somewhere where they could dispose of it for you. There's places that know how to deal with this stuff, okay? This stuff is dangerous. We don't want it in our drinking water. I got my seal kit. Open it up, and in here we have an O-ring and a seal head. The O-ring's for the body, seal head is for the shaft. Now, this is the old seal head. You could test your seal head to see what condition it's in. So if you look at this one, I'm able to wobble it. That's not good. That means it's worn, okay? So it definitely needed to be changed. But then again, 200 hours, you'd want to change it, right? So we're going to take this guy out. Clean the shaft. Now, depending on what kind of damper shaft you have, rebound shaft you have, you might need a glide ring to change. I don't need to change my glide ring. This one's fixed, so this stays as is, okay? So now, we're going to grab a little bit of grease. And we're going to put it on the inside, on each side. Of our new seal head. We're going to take the new seal head. We're going to pop it in just like that. The threads go up, okay? Now, we've made a mess at the bottom. We want to make sure that that is clean, and even more so, the threads inside need to be completely free of grease. Okay? Let's go in there. Oops, not a frame. All right, that part's done. Our tube is empty. We're going to take them and again, put them back on the vise. Use the flat spots. All right. And use the flat spots. Can I get in there? There we go. Then we're going to take our 3-weight oil. Okay, we're going to take them. We're going to fill them up 3/4 of the way for now. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to take them off here, and we're going to squeeze on the bladder. And I'm going to squeeze on the bladder and try and remove as much air as possible right off the bat. If you notice, he's going to go lower and lower and lower on the inside. It's only going to help us make it quicker later to bleed. All right. Squeeze that bladder until there's insignificant stuff coming out. out there. Nothing's moving. So I'm going to put them back in. All right, make sure you're sitting on the edge. Make sure it's perfectly vertical. Now, before we continue, we have a new bleed screw. We're going to take it out. Okay, to close them up, some prep we need to do. Our new seal head has a bleed screw. We're going to take that bleed screw out for now and put it on the side. We're going to take our rebound rod and verify that we're still in the fully open position. Put it in the bottom of the shaft and turn it counterclockwise. Not going anywhere, no clicks. We are fully open. Put that back on the side. Okay. We're going to grab our torque wrench. 5.1 Newton meters. All right. So we're going to fill up our damper body to the top. Remove any bubbles. All right. Overfill it a little bit. Yeah, we're good. Okay. Now, when we go to put this guy in, we want opposing force from the shaft and the seal head. So the seal head, we're pushing down. The shaft, we're going to be pushing up, right? And we're going to put them in. And the reason we took out the bleed screw was so air could come out as the oil is going in all the little ports, right? But we always want to make sure that the shaft is has opposite force than the way we're screwing this thing in, right? So we're going to take this thing, we're going to put them in slowly, put them in, screw them down by hand. All right, if you want, you grab your wrench just to make this a little bit quicker until he bottoms out. And then 5.1 Newton meters, 90-degree angle, and boom, 5.18. Cool. Now we are ready to bleed. For the bleed, I put it on an angle so I could get it better in the camera. There was no way I could do it vertically and have it look good in the camera because the hole fell in a weird spot. So this way you could see everything that I do, right? So the first thing I do is I take out the plunger from our syringe kit, which we will need. Again, this is a regular SRAM, Rockshox SRAM syringe kit. Same tip that's used for all their brakes, right? So I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to put him in all the way. Make sure the seal is at the end, is on the end. All right. I'm going to put a little bit of oil in them. Let's start with about that much. Now this is where my little tool really comes in handy. I'm going to put him at the end over here. Okay. And we're going to use him to, first we'll squeeze the bladder. All right. The whole goal is to try and get as much. Oh yeah, by the way, I needed to put them on a round soft jaw because again I couldn't position the bleed screw to face the camera in any single which way, reasonably face the camera, right? But you could bleed it vertically with a flat jaw, not an issue, just like you had it before, right? So essentially what we're going to do is try and get rid of all the oil by squeezing the bladder and compressing the shaft. All right, so a lot of air just came out. Right, let all that air surface to the top. Give it a knock. All those bubbles, let them go up so we don't suck them in. All right. And repeat until it gets to a point where we're not doing much and we need to go with vacuum. Right. I could hear a little bit of air in the shim stack area going through it. We want to get all that out. Okay, we're at a point where we're not doing much. All right. So what I'm going to do now is take the plunger and I'm going to put them in. All right. Put all that oil in. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the plunger out for now, just for 2 seconds, just to remove the air from inside of it out. So squeeze it up, put a rag on the tip, squeeze it up, remove as much of the air out, and now we're going to put them back in. We shouldn't need any more oil, actually. There should be more than enough oil. And now, again, what we're going to do is use the plunger to create force, expand the bladder, right? Bring this guy all the way up. Use the plunger to expand the bladder. Right? If you notice when I press them in, the bladder fills. See, now I'm able to push. See those little bubbles come out? Hopefully you can see it on camera. So let's do that again. I just pushed those bubbles in, but ultimately, look at all those bubbles we're pushing out now. So now we could use vacuum as well in order to help. Bubbles. And get all the bubbles out of here until you don't see any more. I'm sure the camera's going to overheat. See, I'm grabbing a whole bunch of little ones. A whole bunch of little bubbles there. All right, fill it back up. Expand the bladder. And repeat. Oh, that's sounding a lot quieter already. All right, I'm gonna let the camera cool off and I will be back. And I'm back. So basically I did it for about another 2 minutes and I'm at a point now where I'm not seeing anything. I don't hear air. So you want to, if you're going to hear air, it's going to be in this area. It's going to sound like these little squirting sounds when you're putting pressure against it, right? If you don't hear that, like I haven't heard any in quite a few yep, I don't hear anything. And I haven't seen a bubble come out in a while. So I know I am fully bled. Again, what you can do is test it. Bring it all the way up, expand the bladder. If you could do this about 10 times without seeing any bubbles, right? Use vacuum and you don't see any bubbles after about 10 times, then you're good to go. All right, so as far as I'm concerned, we are done here. So now what we are going to do is, let me do it one more time. All right. Okay. So we're going to make sure the shaft is extended all the way, and then we're going to pressurize the system fully. Okay. And then we're going to let go. Now, one thing I noticed before, I didn't have the oil pan under the right spot, so make sure your oil pan's underneath the right spot. So we just pressurized it, and the system just equalized. Now that it's equalized, get your bleed screw ready. Not magnetic, so we're going to take out the syringe. Oil will come out, and then we're going to take our bleed screw and put him in. Okay. Next, we test them. To test the bleed, first, we're just going to cycle them a few times. Sounds super quiet. I don't hear any squishy noises, so that's a really good sign, right? Then we're going to extend them all the way. right? I'm going to take out my little tool over here, put them on the side. Now, we're going to grab our compression knob. We're going to put them in. We're going to turn them fully clockwise to the fully locked position. Now, what we want to do, could you see it? We're going to press down. Don't put too much force, right? But press down. And you don't want the shaft to move more than a couple of millimeters, right? If it moves more than a couple of millimeters, then chances are you have air in here. You got to go back and do the bleed again, okay? But again, don't put all your weight on it. Just put a good amount of pressure down. And this guy, if he's moving maybe a millimeter at best. Yep, I would say a millimeter. Let me try that again. So I'm good. I'm not going back in there to bleed him. There's no air in there. That's probably just this thing getting old. Yep, he didn't even move a millimeter over there. Right, so again, put some pressure down on him. And yep, I am good. I'm totally bled. This thing's rocking. So the bleed is done. Now it's time to put everything back together onto the uppers. Before we put them on, we have one more seal to change. Or we put them in, I should say. So here, clean the seat. Make sure there's no dirt in it. All right. Grab a little bit of grease. Put it on there. Take the seal and ease over. All right. Now our threads are already cleaned. I'm going to take this guy. We're going to put him in. We're going to use our cassette tool, always by hand first. Always by hand first. Okay, as far as I can take him by hand. I'm going to use the ratchet. Make sure he's in the, yep, there we go. Okay. All right. And once again, our torque wrench, 28 newton meters. So I can put this guy on, set the 28, put him on top, make sure he's in. Oh, oops, and I moved the camera. Sorry about that. $28.4. Done. Now let's put in the knobs. Before we put in the knobs, let's make sure they're clean. Some alcohol on them. Wipe them down. Get them on the inside. Get the teeth on the inside. Low speed compression. Make sure he's clean underneath. Let's make sure this guy's clean. Try and get the dirt around the blue nut over here. See what I mean? Or else it'll make like grindy sounds. Okay. Yeah, that's good enough. So I'm going to start with our low speed compression. Our high speed compression. That should be all the way open. Actually, I don't like that. I'm going to put it there. There we go. That's better. Okay. Then we're going to put our high speed compression. He should already be all the way open. Yes. Then we're going to grab our screw. I'm going to screw them down finger tight. Does not have to be tight. Don't make them too tight or else you won't be able to turn the knob. Make sure you can turn the knob. There we go. Yep, we are good. Our damper is done. Now let's finish up the 50-hour service. Now to finish up the 50-hour service. So first we're going to start off with putting in our fully saturated foam rings. And sitting in here since the middle in this case. All right, we're going to put one there, and we are going to put one in here. Make sure they're not twisted. Make sure they're sitting all the way at the bottom flat. All right, just like that. So I took the wipers out of the 50-hour kit, as well as the crush washers and the new sag ring, right? So first we're going to take a little bit of grease, just a little bit, and put it on the outside of our wipers. All right, not too crazy. And then we're going to take off the outer springs. We'll grab our wiper insertion tool, again, 35 millimeter. All right, see if we can do them by hand. There we go. Perfect. That's why I love pikes. I've never had one come loose either. So by hand, there we go. Done. Okay, they're perfectly flat. Make sure they're perfectly flat. Yes, they are. Now we're going to take grease. Now I fill up the whole concave part of these things. I err on the side of more grease than less grease, even though I really am pretty vigilant with my regular services. I think 50-hour services are just the best. It's the best thing you could do to a bike, or at least the biggest return you could get on your bike, in my opinion. Well, at least a bike with a front fork. Oops, that's not good. It's okay, we'll put it here. All right, so this guy is now prepped. Now we'll put them together. Before we put them together, let's change out our sag ring. This is the old sag ring. This is the new sag ring. Since we have it, why not use it? Put them all the way up. And then we're going to put our new wiper rings or springs. The reason I don't like putting them or leaving them in the wiper when I combine these things is just in case they get pinched. All right, so serial number facing you, crown facing away from you. All right, try and get one side in and then get the other side in, just like, oop, come on, give me a hard time. Okay, maybe I'll get that side in first, and then I'll get this side in. There we go. Perfect. Make sure you are not, we're not flipped inwards, basically. Everything's sitting the way it should. Okay, now what we can do, since we're here, wipe off any excess grease over here. Take our springs, put them in now. See if you can do them by hand. Usually pikes, can't do them by hand. Grab a small pick. Careful, don't scratch your stanchions. Just put them over the edge, just like that. That's one. Yep, check them all the way around. And frame, yes. Come on. So close. And he's going to give me a hard time. All right, in there. All right, again, be careful. There we go. Done. Both of them are in. Now we're going to separate them a little bit so we could have space to put oil in. And that's going to be our next step. Before we put oil in, make sure you have enough space. Make sure the shafts aren't touching the bottom of the lowers there. Now, I'm going to take a syringe. This is our leftover oil. 10 milliliters in each boot. Again, I'm using the 0W30. If you want to use the Maxima Light. I want to empty out this bottle is what it comes down to. Get rid of it, and then I'll start using Maxima. So 10 on one side. That's it, nothing spilt out. I'm not going to have enough here, am I? Ooh, there's my, as I do, what do you know? There we go. 10 on the damper side. Now, make sure that this is clean. All right. Okay. Let's compress them a little bit. There we go. Nope, one side's down, there's the other side. Now they're both, you notice I got both shafts are touching the bottom. To prep our bolts, first we take off the old crush washers. Make sure it's clean. There's no debris there in between. The beveled part goes down, right? You want the flat part to stay up. That one's done. Now this guy here could be a little bit more challenging. Sometimes this could be a real pain in the butt. There's a crush washer inside here. Yep, I got him loose. Question is he going to come out easy, or is he going to be a pain in the butt? Are you going to walk out, or are you not going to walk out? So far you're sort of walking out. Don't go in. There you go. Oh, he went back in. Great. Come on. Come on. Sometimes you need to grab a plier for this guy. This guy's like in between. He doesn't know if he wants to come out or if he doesn't want to come out. Sometimes they don't want to come out. Okay, come on. Grab plier. Sometimes a needle nose comes in handy over here. Just grab him and then walk him out. Just like that, or like that, or like that. There you go, like that. All right, so let's clean them. All right. And we put the new crush washer all the way at the bottom. That goes on the air side. This goes on the damper side. 5mm. Put them in. There he goes. It's one. Now we do the rebound side. By hand. Always by hand. Okay. Tighten them down just a little bit with this guy here. Just to make it easier for the torque wrench. There we go. Okay. Now, torque wrench, 7.3 Newton meters. Grab them. There we go. Put them on here. Lock them in. And a little bit more, I guess. And now we should get them. 7.45, good enough. Come in. Oh, this guy's tighter right off the bat. 7.36 works for me. Next, we put in our rebound knob, right? Don't tie him too tight. Finger tight. Actually, you got to move him around and make sure he falls in the seat. There we go. Don't tie him too tight. See, right now he's too tight. I can't even move him. So, in fact, I don't think I'm sitting in the right seat now that I look at him. So again, he's got to fall in that seat right there, right? So he's got to be just about there. All right. There we go. Now he's working. Make sure he's in there. Good. There we go. Now we're good. No, we're not. Now we're too tight. See what I mean? You got to be careful with this guy. Don't put him too tight. Just tight enough where he sits in there and you can turn him. Cool. Next, we spray him down. And we wipe off all the excess grease. Okay, we're going to make sure to wipe off as much grease as possible. is behind the wipers over here. So just get in there and wipe them off best you can, right? And ta-da! And there you have it, folks. You just serviced a Rockshox Pike RCT3 B1 chassis fork with the Charger 2.1 damper and the C1 air spring. Super easy job to do. All that's left is to set your dials to, and your PSI, your air pressure, to what you had written down in the beginning, and do not forget your air cap. From there, put it back on the bike and go tear up those trails. One thing to note is, for the first few rides, make sure to clean the stanchions because grease will come out of the wipers and it'll make it more difficult for the wipers to do their job. But after about 5 or 10 rides, that shouldn't be an issue anymore. Super easy job, like I said. In my opinion, there's no reason why anyone who owns this fork shouldn't regularly maintain it. Once you get used to the service, both the 50-hour and the full service will go by super quick. These forks perform so much better when freshly serviced, especially after the 50-hour service. Hopefully this video now will make it easier to follow the steps to successfully service it now that it's going to be a little bit brighter and clear. So, if you liked the video, please press the like button. It would be super appreciated. Click the subscribe button to see more videos. Click the bell button, bing, 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 to get reminded when new videos get released. And until then, I hope all is well with everyone, and we will be talking to you soon. Have a good one. Bye.